So we learned beginning quotes last time in class. We make sure that we highlight our explanatory words first. In every sentence that you write, you better highlight those explanatory words, okay? That will signify that everything else that is not highlighted is what? It's in quotes. Everything else that's not highlighted are in quotes. Okay, so this is the quotation information. So first thing, you're going to highlight your explanatory words. Second thing, we're going to make sure that we add quotation marks around the quoted part. We're going to make sure we put a comma, an exclamation mark, or question mark to separate the quotes from the explanatory words. No period ever right here, because our end of our sentence is here. Next thing, we're going to make sure everything is capitalized that should be capitalized, pronouns, proper nouns, and that we still have our period at the end. Punctuation, make sure that anything abbreviated gets punctuated. Double check, make sure that you put a comma, a question mark, or an exclamation mark here, and that you still have your period at the end. This is your formula that you wrote down, your examples. Make sure that those are glued in if you have not glued those in. I did one for each. So if you want to go back and add that, here's one with a comma, here's one with a question, here's one with an exclamation mark. Just remember they're on the inside of the quotation marks. Okay? Yes?
You took them off.
Okay, so I need to give those back to you. Okay. I did something different with y'all's class then, I guess. Okay, and then we have our period at the end. Period always goes at the end of our explanatory words. Okay? All right. So today we're going to do ending quotes next because they're the second easiest ones. We still have that exact same sentence, but now what we're doing, we're flip-flopping those explanatory words are now going to the beginning because where is our quote? At the end. If it's ending quote, our quote is at the end. That's what it signifies there. Okay, so first and foremost, just like we did with our beginning quote, we are going to find our explanatory words. What are they? My dad said. We're going to go ahead and highlight them. Now we see that they're in the front instead.
Wait, do I highlight, underline, beginning?
You can. Okay, says the explanatory words are underlined and a comma is placed at the end of the explanatory words in the sample sentence below. So we have a comma now to separate our explanatory words from our quotated sentence. Okay, this one, instead of doing question marks, exclamation mark, or comma, it's always going to just be a comma. Why? What do you think? Is that part of a question or part of an exclamation? It's the explanatory words. That's it. So comma, and it's at the beginning now, so we don't need a question mark or exclamation mark. So it's always going to be a comma right here. All right. So right here where it says and a comma is placed at the end of the explanatory words, you may want to highlight that. Okay. So in an ending quote, the first two things is find explanatory words, add a comma after them. Okay, rule number 2. Now we're going to go and do the exact same thing. So the rules are in the exact same order. The sentence is just opposite. Now everything still is that's not highlighted is quotated. So now we're going to put the quotation marks around the rest of that sentence just like we did in the other one. Rule number 3. I'm going through these pretty quickly because y'all should know these rules pretty good by now. Capitalize. So anything that needs to be capitalized, I'm going to make sure that I begin my sentence with a capital letter. All my proper nouns and abbreviations are capitalized. The other thing, remember yesterday that we always begin our quotation or dialogue with a capital letter. Even though that this is in the middle of the sentence, it's part of our quotation, it has to start with a capital letter. Okay?
What is BJ Moss?
The beginning of, it's just a name. The beginning of the quote is capitalized. So that's very important. It doesn't matter where that quote is in the sentence, it's always going to begin with a capital. Okay, then we're going to check punctuation. I'm going to make sure that I put my comma after my explanatory words. I'm going to check that, make sure my abbreviations have my periods, and that I have ended my sentence with the correct punctuation, which could be that right here. It can be at the end because this is part of the question. It can be question mark, exclamation mark, or a comma at the end of the quoted information. Okay. So we can always use a question mark, exclamation mark with quoted information. The only way is if it's in the beginning, we can only use a comma. Here, actually, I apologize. It has to be a period because we're now ending we're completing the sentence. It's done. Here is the pattern. This one's not quite so faded today. So we are going to actually take that pattern and we're going to write it down on our note card just like we did the last time. This one's title is now ending quote. And we're going to write the pattern next. So it has a capital letter here, so we're going to begin the sentence with a capital letter, which is our explanatory words. We're going to follow those explanatory words with a comma. I'm just going to make it large enough that I can see that that's what I need to have. Then I'm going to begin my quote, and it's going to begin with a capital letter also. And this time I can end with a period, an exclamation mark, question mark, or an exclamation mark. And then I'm going to end my quotes. So still the punctuation has to stay inside the quotation mark. And then we're going to write an example. So in this case, we can still come up with our simple sentence, but we need to leave room at the beginning for our explanatory words. So someone raise your hand and give me a simple sentence. All right, Carson. Okay. So I'm going to leave a little room and I'm going to scoot over and put a simple sentence. The boy bounced. And and we're going to go ahead and end it with our ending punctuation because it's a simple sentence. So which punctuation do we need at the end?
Period.
Just a period's good. So I'm going to go ahead and put that because we can always do that to our simple sentence because that's where our punctuation needs to go anyway. All right, so who is saying this?
Jimmy.
Okay, and Jimmy, and look at your list of better words to use instead of said. Jimmy what?
Yell. Explain.
Okay, if we're using exclaim, then we have to use an exclamation mark here. We've used a period, so it needs to be something just stated.
Oh.
Jimmy spoke. Okay, and what do we put after our explanatory words in this case? What'd you say? A comma. So we've got to make sure we separate that. If not, we've got Jimmy spoke, the boy bounced the ball. We have a run-on sentence. We have to have some kind of separation. Okay, so we've already done rule number 1. Rule number 2 is to what? Put our quotation marks. What do we need to do to our explanatory words? Highlight them. So everything else that is not highlighted is in quotations. Remember that period goes inside those quotation marks. Okay, pretty simple, right? We're just adding our explanatory words to the beginning now of the sentence. It's pretty simple. Now we're just going to double check. Did I capitalize everything?
Yeah.
Well, if I wrote my sentence first, then it's already going to be capitalized. So it's pretty easy, but I need to go back and make sure. Did I start with a capital letter? Did I start my quote with a capital letter? And is there any other things in here that need to be capitalized? Pretty good. Next thing, punctuation. Double check, make sure you put your comma to separate. Make sure you have the correct punctuation at the end and it's inside the quotation marks. Okay? What I want for you to do is write you a simple sentence and do this yourself.
I like bacon. Is that a simple sentence? Or is that too short?
No, that's fine. Simpler the better, probably right now for this. Yes.
Okay.
Are we allowed to put like someone said at the back of the sentence?
This one's an ending quote, so the explanatory words are going to be at the beginning. So you're going to scoot over to write your sentence first, and then go back to the front and add your explanatory words. I'm going to use the same sentence, and I'm going to use the other two punctuations with it, so you can see. Yes. Beginning quote begins with the quote. Ending quote ends with the quote. You see what I mean? Okay. And if I change my punctuation at the end, I'm going to change my dialogue tag here. And I'm showing you the way to go through the progression of this while I'm writing these.